Alright guys, this video should be a lot better than the first one. I'm sorry that the other one was so low quality. I just figured out how to make screen recordings, so I'm just going to go over a couple tips and tricks for doing layout on LumaPix Photo Fusion. Just so that you guys know the basics of how to do it. I know that I sent out the other video, but I'm hoping this one will be better quality. So that it might be easier to follow along. So I'm just going to start by adding pages. I'll delete these later. I'm just making them so you can see what I'm doing. And since I'm going to be doing this as a spread, I'm going to make it as a spread. So to make it a spread, you hit double pages so that both the pages show up side by side. And I'm going to be doing pages 20 and 21. And now I already started these, but I'm starting from scratch on a separate one, just so that you guys can see the general how-to for some of this. So this is my new spread. This icon right here, this is how you get into editing. This is how you make a copy, and this is how you look at other people's stuff, but when you're going into yours, you're just going to hit edit. So when you first open up, it should be blank. We try not to use templates or anything just because it gives us more freedom if we only start with a blank screen. To do a text box, first you click and drag, and you're going to click text frame. So once that happens, your little dialog box launches up. This is where you decide everything that you want to do with the text. So we have a standardized list. This is our list here of our guidelines because we want to make sure everything is the same. I think in the past video I said the wrong text size. We want to make sure that the text stays 10. So that was my fault because I messed that up last time. But this should be on the Falcon Flash team drive so that you can look back on it just for reference whenever you need to. So we have our standard is Times New Roman, which is right at the bottom. 10, and we want everything center and left justified. So you see how it's in the middle, and if you move this around, well, since we locked it, but it's important that we have everything center or left and top justified. So that way it's always in this upper corner. And it's important that you make sure that you have this lock and clip selected. This is the natural inclination of the program. The program's always going to have it as resized to fit. And the problem with that is as you move your box around, the text is going to change with it, and we don't want that. So make sure that you click 10 and then label it as lock and clip. It sometimes goes automatically, sometimes it doesn't, so just be aware of this. And so first I'm just going to use my interview with Dr. Wassler just as, this is my democracy article just as a example. So I'm just going to copy it right out of my Google Doc and then put it right into my article. And something I've always appreciated is columns. So one way of doing that is taking advantage of these margins up here. So first, you have to expand the article to its full length. And what I like to do is just cut it in half. Well, or at least as in half as possible. Try to do it at paragraph breaks. So an easy way of doing that is just copying the whole box and then pasting it. So now you have two of the same. And say that I want all this part to have its own box, I would just go back and delete all of this. And we like columns just because a lot of times it's easier to read, and make sure that you also delete it on the other side as well. So we have this here, which is these things, so we have to delete it here, these two paragraphs. And something that's also very important is you see how they're very small right now? We can expand them to make them a little bit easier to read, but it's very important to make sure that they stay the same width. So if you look up here, there are arrows that show where boxes stop and start. And if you make sure that you just line up the arrows, they should be the same size. So that one is clipped in on that side, and you just drag it out till it clips in on that side. And that ensures that they are uniform length. So if I bring this down, and then you see how you can use the arrows right here to make sure that they're aligned on the same side. So then that brings up the question of, what do I do with all this space down here? So one of my favorite parts about this program is the fun stuff we can do with the decorations. And now there's a lot of things that you can do with the decorations. I'm just going to show you one thing that we can do. So this article is called Democracy for Dummies, and it's basically about the rights people have as constituents. So I'm going to try to go with a government or America-themed look for this page. So if I go to decorations, I would go to, let's see, I think the one I'm looking for is in designer series. And we have so many different types here, like dinosaurs, western, jungle. So there's really a good variety in here. The one I'm going for is Americana. And if I remember correctly, you see there's a lot of different things that we can do here. I mean, I don't remember what this is called, but a lot of different American, classic American things. And all of this comes with the programming, so we don't have to cite them or pay for the rights to use them or anything like that. It just comes with the program that we use. There's one thing, here it is. So this is a clip art of the Capitol building. I really like it. I think that I can squeeze it in here. And I think that overall it just gives it a cuter look, and it makes the page filled up a little bit more. Something that is important is, you see how there are these blue things here to like swish and turn it? But I found that as soon as you turn it, it gets fuzzy, and there's no way of cleaning that up. So we're just going to try not to turn it, and you can just fix that by hitting Control-Z, and it will look the most crisp and clear. The most important thing about using clip art is that it follows a lot of the same rules as images. So you can see even here how there's sort of a shadow outline going around the building. What you want to do is use the image dialog box, and this is where you work on the specific parts of the image. This is classified as an image even though it's a clip art. So you want to click on the shadow and click off the show shadow button, and you can see what a difference it makes. It makes it look more flat on the page, and it kind of takes off that added depth that we don't really want. So here, now we have all this space up here, so which means we're going to have to put in a picture to fill up the page. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger than I'm probably going to need, right about there, and I'm going to hit image frame. Now images are going to be a little bit more difficult than doing text, because it's just going to be harder to plug in. It's not like you can just copy and paste an image. So, but right before we get started, the image box stays pretty much the same no matter what image you're clicked on, but as soon as you click on text, as you can see, it switches over to text. So we're going to stay on the image box and make sure that we click off the shadow, just because you can see it stays a lot better. I think we're probably going to stick with the borders. I know that we've had some conversations in the past about keeping the borders or not. I'm pretty sure Mrs. Russell likes the borders, and I don't particularly mind them. So I think we're just going to stick with the borders for now, but wait to see what Mrs. Russell says about it specifically. So to put a photo in, I have found the easiest way of doing it is just using the Images tab right up here. And for some people, it's not up here, so you just want to click on this drop-down menu and click Images, which will bring it up in your easy grab area. So if you click on Images, it's going to pull up this. So I'll just go home so that you can see. This is just pretty much nothing. If you used pictures in the past, sometimes they'll show up here. But basically what you want to do is click down, and this is really your software of your laptop. So this will have a lot of files that you have saved or anything that you have saved to your desktop. What I would recommend is when you're picking pictures to use with your articles, to save them to your desktop. So I don't know if I'm going to stick with this one, but this is the one I've chosen to go with this article. It's from Washington, D.C. It's a picture of the Lincoln Memorial. So I'm just going to click it and drag it in and drop it. So here you can see that we have the outer layer of the picture, which is the blue, and the blue is what's used to adjust the actual frame. But I'm sure you can see even within it, like sometimes the word shows up, sometimes it's just the chair. So what you use to adjust the inside is the yellow outer corners. So you can click and drag here to move them around. If you want to zoom in or out, you use these yellow things right here. And something I would suggest is investing in a mouse, because it's kind of weird how the software does it, where say I want to zoom in to do some fine detail work, you have to point exactly where you want to go to zoom in, and zooming out, it takes you out from that spot. So say I want to go over in this area, I have to go away from it to get where I need to go. So I would really encourage you guys to invest in a mouse, because it's going to make moving around the pages a whole lot easier. So yeah, so now we have a picture in, and our page is looking pretty good, but what we're going to need is a title. So this is called Democracy for Dummies. So text frame, make sure it's left and top justified. I think, let me go and check, I don't exactly remember. Our flash guidelines. Headlines are always 18 bold. So if I go back in here, and these boxes down here, these are your bold, italics, underline, and strike through. So make sure we hit bold. And something that I would also just remind you guys of as I do this is, if you have stuff in italics, or if you have stuff underlined, or if you have stuff in bold in your document, when you copy and paste it over, that's going to disappear. So if it's very important to have a certain word italicized or underlined or anything like that, you have to make sure that you go back into the software and do that individually here, because it does not transfer over. So I'm just going to name this, if I can spell, Democracy for Dummies. So if I pull that over, might have to do a little bit adjusting to make it all fit. So one of the other things I'm going to want to include is a byline, so that the readers know that this is my work. Something that I found is easiest is just to copy over another thing, and then that way I only have to change one or two things about it. I don't have to go through the whole process all over again. That way it's already top justified. It's pretty much the font that I need. I can just change it. So I'm pretty sure our size for bylines is 11, but I'm going to go back and check. Captions. Oh, subtitles. Here we go. No columns, so that's good. We don't include these parts just so that it's all uniform. So I'm going to go 11 and no column. So we go back here. By Anna Given. So you guys, it doesn't really matter particularly how big the text box is, because the text box, like the border, isn't going to show up. But I've always found it's easier to move stuff around when it's smaller, so that way it bumps into everything less. So pretty much this is, I would say, close to a done page. It has all of the different things that we're going to need. It has a picture, an article, a title, and a byline. This is kind of a fun extra thing, but I guess I would say this has all the basics. One other quick thing that I'm just going to go over is a caption. And now, not all of our works are going to need captions, but I think it's still important just to go over it so that you guys have a general idea of what you're doing. So we're just going to real quick go over captions and photo credits, because those can be kind of confusing. I think our photo, I don't know if we have something for that yet, but if I remember correctly, our photo credits are 8, and our captions are also 8, if I believe, if I remember correctly. But again, I would double check with Mrs. Russell. I'm just running off of information that I think I remember, whether I do or don't. So we're going to go with 8. Okay, and we usually do these things in italics just to separate them from the rest. So say I caption this a memory of, oh, it's not justified correctly, hang on. I would call this something like the man of democracy. How about that? Man of democracy. So I would put this right here. Man of democracy. And one of our bigger conversations is where does it go? Does it go inside the photo? Does it go under the photo? Does it go up here? And that's something that I think we're going to have to just double check and sort of play by ear. But it's important that no matter what's chosen, that it looks the same on every page. But you guys can see how this is kind of hard to do. The software kind of doesn't want to put it so close. So this is where a mouse would be helpful because it just lets you zoom in very easily and do more detail work like this. One of the harder things also along with this is photo credit. So we like to always credit whoever makes the photo. So I'm just going to copy this over because it's impossible to make the font that small. Copy, paste. So now we already have, let's delete this. I want to copy this. Copy, paste. Really the biggest difference that we do with these is it kind of works on this picture, but sometimes if we have darker pictures, the black photo credit isn't going to fit well. Hang on, let me fix this. So say that this photo had more of a black background, the black text just would make it really virtually indistinguishable from the background. So sometimes what we have to do is give it, make the words white so that they fit. So I'm going to zoom in again so I can actually see. And basically, to make the photos white, you go to these two things right here, and you just push them both up all the way to white. So now I'm sure you can see. Now you can't pretty much see anything because it's white, but if you move it over, you can see how it's black here. And that's pretty much the only time you're ever going to need to change the color of the words. Obviously, words and stuff should remain black for over on the actual document. So I took this picture on a trip to DC, so I would say photo by Anna Given. And then I would put that in one of the corners. So that's the basics of it. We've gone over, I mean, if you guys want to explore, I would always encourage that. These are a couple different headers, so if they would load up. Let's say I'm doing something on an elementary school that just opened. Then I could be like, oh, well, that's not what I thought it was. But basically, I'm sure you get the gist that you can see that we have a lot of fun stuff up here. So if you want to explore and get to know it, you can always do that. We have a lot of fun photo frames like these where you can put the photo in and it has sort of a peeled back look, which is pretty exciting. Something actually cool about the images is you can make images as your background. So say that I really like this and I had no text for it, I could set it as the background. So the whole photo is the background, but then you can't really move it around or anything. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do here. And really the best way to know how to do layout is to actually do it. So a lot of the things that I showed you guys is stuff that I just figured out just by playing around with the software. So I would encourage everyone just to take a couple minutes and just say, oh, what does this do? Oh, what does this do? And I'm sure you'll find some stuff that I hadn't found either. But yeah, so that's been a basics on the layout for LumaPix.